Oops. Yeah. Mind our P's and Q's.
I'll call this meeting of the Executive Committee to order. This meeting was posted by the clerk's office in accordance with the appropriate rules. We are all here. As a matter of passing, I would like to thank Supervisor Mary for stepping in for me the last few weeks. So we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It didn't come back with much of a 10.
Oh,
Some lights in the bars.
we have one discussion item, which is the final framework for the next generation housing. Deb is presenting that.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Are you gonna read all 40 pages?
Just the red letters.
That's about half of them.
Need my reading glasses. All right, good afternoon. So I provided you with the framework. This is the final framework. The committee has reviewed this back in May and in June. And the edits since then have been tracked. It was reviewed and approved by the Next Gen Housing Committee yesterday morning. There were a couple of edits, which I'll go over. But this framework is really a compilation of hundreds of meetings over the last 15 months, many roadblocks that have been overcome. And we've all been working cooperatively with the goal of providing these housing opportunities at attainable prices for working families and individuals. There's really only 6 main points that have changed since you reviewed this last. I'll go over them very quickly. The Next Gen Housing, the county investment is acting now essentially as a 0% loan for the development, mainly the infrastructure of the development. The home builders still need to complete home lot packages of under 300,000 and 400,000. The county investment of the 20,000 per owner occupied dwelling unit will be an additional cost. There will be a lien placed at the time the land is sold from the owner to the builder. And then that will be satisfied when the home is sold to the home buyer. So the total sales price will be under 320,000 and under 420,000. Again, it was 75% under 320,000 and 100% all being under 420,000. We've also been able to solve the preventing flip for profit. That is certainly something that has been on the minds of many people. That will be achieved through a deed restriction. With Next Gen Housing, we anticipate that the home sales price is going to be much lower than the fair market value. So that difference between the sales price and the fair market value will be realized in that deed restriction, which will be structured by the local governments. It'll be a 5-year deed restriction for the first home buyer. So if they sell within that 5 years, then those funds, that difference would be provided back to the local government.
Question. Will we have some oversight into how that deed restriction is worded?
Yeah, and that'll be identified in the MOA. So the framework and these details will be called out in the memorandum of agreement that the county has with the local government, and we'll be reviewing those documents.
I think that's a good move to make, to put that so you don't get flipping. I don't know that 5 years might be a little bit long. Because young families getting starting out, it's not uncommon for 2 or 3 years and then moving on at that part of their life, young couples tend to be quite mobile. And I don't know that 5 years has been appropriate, but obviously this has been discussed, so.
Yep, actually, the recommendation has been from lenders about the 5 years, what they've seen.
Okay.
Next, the Sure.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, just to be clear and for the record, the difference between fair market value, to use the term that Deb used, and the sale price of 320 up to 420, it is not that these some manipulation. It's basically the profit differential. We've essentially been able to cut out enough of the costs that otherwise would normally be passed on to the owner. And that profit has essentially been eliminated. So it's critical both that we have the deed restriction so that people don't flip it. And it's also important that municipalities don't try to take that profit to pay off whatever their expenses are. They certainly, in each case, in the first 3 pilots at least, we have pilots, we have TIF districts. So those TIF districts need to get paid off and they need to be able to pay for some of their extraneous costs. But we don't want to have profit on one end or the other. So we don't want anyone on either side pocketing it. This is designed to get these people into homes and we don't want it to be manipulated on either side or on any side for that matter. So just to be clear on the difference, when that term fair market value is used, that's really what it's talking about. Is basically the profit has been kind of sucked out of it.
Okay. And then the last 2 major changes is that the down payment program was 25,000. That's being moved to align with the $20,000 investment that the county's making. So the down payment program would be at $20,000. And then we've also established a set of minimum quality standards. Since we're limiting the sales price, we also wanted to have an accompanying quality standard that the builders need to meet. So those are the 6 major changes since the last time you've seen this. So I'm open to any questions that you might have.
The only one I have, if I can, and I don't know how to word this, but I just want to throw it out there. Is there any concern during that deed restriction period that the owner, if he's to make any modifications to the home? I mean, we want to make sure he does them right, you know. I've seen people try to do their own do-it-yourself projects and mess them up. And I guess is there any thought that we might want to try to avoid stuff like that? I mean, they have to pull permits, right? But
yeah, they would. Yeah, of course, they would have to pull permits. And actually, the framework describes that these homes are when they're built and sold are not custom. These will be more turnkey.
right, okay.
And any additions or modifications would happen after the home is transferred and the sale is complete.
Okay.
Then the homeowner is free to do as many modifications as they would like. And that would still, the deed restriction would already have been set.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So there's something here in one of the bullet points about requiring that they be owner occupied.
Yes.
Which that's our intent, obviously. If we didn't have that in there, is there a risk that somebody might try to buy one of these and lease it out for profit?
Yes, and not only that are we trying to prevent, but we're also trying to prevent any corporations to come in and, collect a whole, 10, 20 homes and rent them all. So the owner occupied component is actually very important. And that's part of the covenant, the declaration of covenants that each of the developments will have.
So I'm glad we've addressed that risk. Speaking to that 5-year deed restriction, I think that's a good time frame. Because the point of this is to encourage people to move in and grow roots in the community.
Right.
If they only stay 2 or 3 years and move out, we're defeating the purpose. And if this incentivizes them to stick it out an extra year or 2.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Good.
Yes, I agree with that. So, yep.
Great.
Okay, any other questions or concerns? I understand this is just a consensus, so
Yes.
I just have some comment. I just have to step back and being a member of the Next Gen Housing and think back to the original idea. Kudos to the staff for taking it from a vision And really back in October, I think in Fair Park and just kind of beginning to talk about it and watching the progress. And Deb, you've done an amazing job with all the details. There's so many parts and pieces, and listening to the talented people that sit around actually on the coalition, if you will, or initiative for Next Gen. You know, knowledge that's really deep, and they've been interesting conversations and sometimes very lengthy because there is a lot of knowledge there, but it's just really come to a point that is, you should be very proud. And so
I am. Thank you.
thank you to the staff again for working hard at this.
Thank
It's
you.
Amazing.
So do we have a consensus of
Yes.
agreement?
Yes.
We're good.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Indoors.
Our next executive committee meeting is February 15th, 2023 at 4 p.m.